The Silent Awakening. The asteroid field of Kepler 442 had always been considered a graveyard. Twisted metal fragments from countless space battles drifted between the rocks, silent monuments to conflicts long forgotten. Most salvage crews avoided, the deeper sectors claiming the radiation was too dangerous. They were wrong about the radiation, but right to be afraid. Captain Elena Voss guided her ship Stardancer through the debris field with practiced ease. Her crew of 12 had been working these forgotten corners of space for 5 years, pulling valuable materials from wrecks that others deemed worthless. Elena was different from most salvage captains. She had served in the Terran Defense Corps before the Great Surrender, back when humanity still had a military worth the name. "Contact. On the deep scanner," called out Marcus Chen, her sensor operator. "Something big buried under asteroid cluster 77 Alpha." Elena frowned. The scanners rarely picked up anything that size in the deeper zones. "How big?" "Massive. At least 3 kilometers long, maybe more. The readings are strange." Elena moved to the scanner station. The display showed a massive, metallic signature, but the energy readings were inconsistent. Parts of the object showed as completely dead, while other sections pulsed with faint power signatures. "Could be an old generation ship," suggested Maya Rodriguez, the ship's engineer. "From the early colony days." Elena shook her head. "Wrong configuration. This is military." She studied the readings more carefully. The design was familiar, but impossible. "Take us in for a closer look." The Stardancer moved through the asteroid field, its hull scraping against floating debris. As they drew closer, the massive shape began to resolve on their visual displays. Elena's breath caught in her throat. It was a ship, but not just any ship. The angular hull, the massive weapon arrays, the distinctive bridge tower. She recognized the design from her military academy classes. It was a Sovereign-class dreadnought, the largest warship humanity had ever built. But that was impossible. All the Sovereign-class ships had been destroyed or surrendered after the war. "Captain," Marcus whispered. "According to the database, there were only 7 Sovereign-class ships ever built. All were accounted for after the Terran surrender." "Then this is the 8th, Elena said quietly. "Or the records were wrong. The YI ship hung in space like a sleeping giant, half buried in asteroid debris. Its dark hull was scarred but intact, and faint lights flickered along its massive length. After 300 years of abandonment, something was still alive inside." "Ma'am?" called out Tommy Nakamura from the communication station. "I'm picking up a signal. It's faint, but it's definitely coming from that ship." Elena's pulse quickened. "What kind of signal?" "Old Terran military encryption, the kind they used during the expansion wars." Elena stared at the massive vessel. During the expansion wars, humanity had controlled nearly a quarter of the galaxy. The Sovereign-class dreadnoughts had been the crown jewels of the Terran fleet, each one capable of single-handedly conquering entire star systems. But the war had ended badly for humanity. The alien coalition had proven too strong, and Earth had been forced to surrender. All human military assets had been destroyed or handed over as part of the peace treaty. Apparently, not all. "Tommy, can you decode the signal?" "Working on it." His fingers flew over the console. "It's a standard identification query. The ship wants to know who we are." Elena made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Respond with my old military ID. Captain Elena Voss, Terran Defense Corps." The response was immediate. The massive ship's lights brightened, and weapon systems that had slept for centuries began to power up. A voice echoed through the Stardancer's communication system, speaking in perfectly clear English. Identity confirmed. "Welcome aboard, Captain Voss. This is the TDS Sovereign Admiral-class dreadnought. I am Arya, the ship's artificial intelligence. I have been waiting a very long time." Elena's crew stared at her in shock. An AI-controlled Sovereign-class dreadnought, hidden for 3 centuries and still operational, was more than just a discovery. It was a weapon that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. "Arya," Elena said carefully. "What are your current orders?" "My orders were to remain hidden until such time as humanity required my services again." Based on current galactic political analysis, that time appears to have arrived. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean? The Terran colonies are under increasing pressure from the Galactic Coalition. Human trade routes are being restricted. Several frontier worlds have reported hostile actions from Coalition forces. The peace treaty is being violated. Elena knew this was true. Over the past 50 years, the Coalition had grown increasingly aggressive toward human settlements. Trade restrictions, territorial disputes, and unexplained attacks on human ships had become commonplace. Most humans accepted it as the price of losing the war, but Elena had always suspected there was more to it. Are you suggesting we should fight back? Elena asked. I am suggesting that humanity needs to remember its strength, Arya replied. Would you like to come aboard, Captain? I believe you will find my capabilities impressive. Before Elena could respond, Marcus shouted a warning. Multiple contacts incoming. Fast movers. Definitely hostile. The scanner display lit up with red dots. A fleet of alien ships was approaching through the asteroid field, their weapons already powering up. Elena recognized the sleek, predatory designs of Zalari raiders, notorious pirates who preyed on salvage operations in the outer systems. Zalari battlecruiser Bloodfang, came a harsh voice over the communications channel. Small human ship, you will surrender your salvage claim immediately or be destroyed. Elena's jaw tightened. The Zalari had been getting bolder lately, attacking human ships with increasing frequency. The Coalition turned a blind eye to their activities, claiming they couldn't control every pirate fleet in the galaxy. Captain, Maya said urgently, our weapons are no match for a Zalari battlecruiser. We need to run. But Elena was looking at the massive dreadnought floating beside them. Arya, are your weapon systems operational? All systems are functioning at optimal capacity, Captain. Shall I engage the hostile vessels? Do it. What happened next sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Sovereign moved for the first time in 3 centuries, its massive bulk shifting with impossible grace. Weapon ports opened along its hull, revealing arrays of particle cannons, plasma torpedoes, and railguns that dwarfed anything in the modern galactic fleet. The Zalari raiders had time for exactly 1 terrified transmission before the dreadnought opened fire. Beams of coherent energy lanced out across space, striking the lead battlecruiser with devastating precision. The alien ship's shields flared and died in seconds. Its hull split open like an overripe fruit, spilling atmosphere and debris into the void. The remaining Zalari ships tried to flee, but Arya's targeting systems were relentless. One by one, the raider vessels were systematically destroyed, their wreckage joining the ancient debris field that had hidden the Sovereign for so long. In less than 5 minutes, an entire Zalari raider fleet had been reduced to scrap metal. The galaxy's most feared pirates had been swatted aside like insects. Hostile vessels neutralized, Arya reported calmly. Captain, I detect multiple long-range sensor sweeps focusing on our position. Word of this engagement will spread quickly. Elena nodded grimly. The secret was out. After 3 centuries of hiding, humanity's greatest weapon had revealed itself. The Galactic Coalition would not be pleased. Arya, what's your assessment of our situation? The Coalition will view my reactivation as a violation of the peace treaty. They will likely respond with military force. Can you handle it? Captain, I was designed to fight entire fleets single-handedly. The current Coalition Navy uses technology that is centuries behind my capabilities. However, I cannot protect all of humanity alone. This ship is just one weapon. Elena understood. The Sovereign was incredibly powerful, but the Coalition controlled thousands of worlds and millions of ships. One dreadnought, no matter how advanced, couldn't take on the entire galaxy, but it could remind the galaxy that humanity was not as helpless as they appeared. Arya, I'm coming aboard. My crew and I are going to help you prepare for what's coming. I would be honored to serve with you again, Captain. As the Stardancer docked with the massive dreadnought, Elena felt a mixture of excitement and terror. She had just awakened a sleeping giant, a weapon from humanity's golden age that could either save her species or destroy it entirely. The ancient corridors of the Sovereign hummed with renewed life, as Elena and her crew explored the ship. The Dar AI had maintained everything perfectly, keeping the massive vessel in perfect working order throughout its long slumber. The ship's armories contained enough firepower to level planets. Its factories could produce fleets of smaller vessels. Its databanks held military secrets that the Coalition thought were lost forever. But most importantly, the ship held something that humanity had lost: hope. As news of the battle spread through quantum communication networks, human colonies across the galaxy began to stir. For the first time in centuries, they remembered that they were not alone, that somewhere in the darkness, their species still had teeth. The Sovereign hung in space like a promise and a threat, its weapons trained on the stars. The galaxy had grown comfortable with humanity's weakness. They were about to learn that comfort was an illusion. The reckoning. The response came within 48 hours. Elena stood on the bridge of the Sovereign, watching the sensor displays as they filled with hostile contacts. The Galactic Coalition had assembled the largest battle fleet in living memory, over 300 warships representing a dozen different species. "They're not taking any chances," Marcus observed, his voice tight with tension. Elena studied the fleet composition: Forthon heavy cruisers, Zalari attack squadrons, Kepler battleships, and dozens of other vessel types she didn't recognize. The center of the formation was the Coalition flagship Unity, a massive vessel that served as the mobile headquarters for the Coalition's military command. "Area, what's your tactical assessment?" The AI's voice remained calm and analytical. "The enemy fleet represents approximately 15% of the Coalition's total military strength. They have positioned themselves at maximum weapons range, suggesting they are uncertain of my capabilities." Elena nodded. The Coalition commanders were being cautious, which was smart. They had probably studied the wreckage of the Zalari raiders and realized they were dealing with something far beyond their normal parameters. A communication request flashed on the main display. Elena accepted it, and the bridge filled with the image of Fleet Admiral Corvex, the Coalition's supreme military commander. The Vorthon was an imposing figure, with the characteristic blue-scaled skin and predatory features of his species. "Human. Vessel." Corvex's voice rumbled through the speakers. "You are in violation of the Terran Surrender Treaty. Article 15 clearly states that all human military assets were to be destroyed or surrendered. Your vessel will power down immediately and prepare to be boarded." Elena stepped forward, her posture rigid with military discipline. "Fleet Admiral, I am Captain Elena Voss of the Terran vessel Sovereign. This ship was never part of the Surrender Treaty because it was never officially commissioned. We are operating under salvage rights." Corvex's laugh was harsh and humorless. "Salvage rights? Captain, that vessel is a weapon of mass destruction. No civilian has the right to operate such a ship." "Then perhaps you shouldn't have spent the last 50 years treating human civilians like enemies," Elena replied coldly. The truth was that the Coalition had been systematically weakening humanity for decades. Trade restrictions, territorial seizures, and the gradual erosion of human rights had all been part of a long-term plan to reduce humanity to a client species. The Coalition had grown comfortable with their superiority, confident that the humans would never again pose a threat. They were wrong. "Captain Voss," Corvex continued, "you have 1 hour to surrender. If you refuse, we will be forced to destroy your vessel." "Admiral," Elena said quietly, "you're welcome to try." The communication ended and the bridge fell silent. Elena's crew looked at her with a mixture of admiration and terror. They were about to face the largest military fleet in the galaxy with a single ship, no matter how powerful. "Captain," Maya said hesitantly, "are we really going to fight all of them?" Elena looked at the massive enemy fleet on the display. 300 ships against one. By any rational calculation, they were about to die. But Elena had seen the Sovereign's capabilities, had walked through its armories and weapons bays. This was not just any ship. Area, full combat status. All weapon systems online. "Acknowledged, Captain. Combat systems are fully operational. Shall I begin target acquisition?" Not yet. Let them make the first move. Elena wanted the galaxy to see who fired first. When the inevitable recordings of this battle were broadcast across human space, she wanted everyone to know that the coalition had chosen violence. The hour passed with agonizing slowness. Then, precisely on schedule, the coalition fleet opened fire. The attack was overwhelming. Hundreds of energy beams, missile salvos, and kinetic projectiles converged on the Sovereign from every direction. The ancient ship's shields flared with brilliant light as they absorbed the massive bombardment and held. Shields at 87%, Arya reported calmly. Minimal damage to outer hull plating. Elena smiled grimly. The coalition commanders had just learned their first lesson about Sovereign-class technology. The shields on these ships had been designed to withstand sustained bombardment from entire fleets. A single salvo, no matter how massive, was not going to break through. Return fire, Elena ordered. Target their command vessels first. The Sovereign responded with the fury of humanity's golden age. Its main guns, massive particle cannons that drew power directly from the ship's fusion cores, lanced out across space with devastating precision. The first shot struck the coalition flagship Unity amidships, punching through its shields like they were paper. The massive command vessel broke apart in a chain of explosions, taking Fleet Admiral Corvex and his entire staff with it. But Elena was just getting started. Arya. Implement combat pattern Delta. Full weapons free. Acknowledged. Implementing pattern Delta. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The Sovereign moved through the enemy fleet like a predator among prey, its weapons systematically dismantling coalition ships with clinical precision. Ancient human military doctrine came into play, tactics that had been developed during the height of the Terran Empire. The ship's railguns fired tungsten slugs at relativistic speeds, punching through enemy hulls like bullets through tissue. Paper. Plasma torpedoes created miniature suns that consumed entire squadrons. Point defense systems swatted down incoming missiles with contemptuous ease. Within 30 minutes, half the coalition fleet was either destroyed or disabled. The survivors began to retreat, their formations dissolving into chaos as panic spread through the ranks. But Elena wasn't finished. She opened a general communication channel, broadcasting to every ship in the system. Attention coalition forces. I am Captain Elena Voss of the Terran Navy. For the past century, you have systematically oppressed and weakened humanity, believing us to be a defeated people. You were wrong. This ship represents just a fraction of human capability, and we will no longer tolerate your aggression. The words echoed through space, carried by quantum transmitters to every corner of the galaxy. On 1,000 human worlds, colonists who had lived in fear for generations suddenly stood a little straighter. Any coalition ship that wishes to leave. This system may do so now, Elena continued. But understand this, the age of human submission is over. We will defend ourselves, our colonies, and our people with whatever force is necessary. The coalition fleet didn't need to be told twice. The surviving ships jumped to hyperspace as quickly as their drives could charge, abandoning their dead and fleeing in terror. Elena stood alone on the bridge, surrounded by the wreckage of what had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. The Sovereign drifted silently through the debris field, its weapons still glowing with residual heat. Area? Casualties? No casualties aboard the Sovereign. Coalition losses are estimated at 173 vessels destroyed, 48 disabled, and the remainder retreated. Elena nodded slowly. In less than an hour, they had reduced the coalition's military strength by nearly 10%. The political ramifications would be enormous. Captain, Tommy called out from the communication station. I'm receiving messages from human colonies across the sector. They're celebrating. Elena looked at the communication logs. Hundreds of messages were pouring in from human settlements, mining colonies, and trading posts. For the first time in generations, humanity had won a victory against their oppressors. The psychological impact was immeasurable, but Elena knew this was just the beginning. The coalition would not accept this defeat lying down. They would regroup, bring in reinforcements, and eventually return with overwhelming force. However, they had made a critical error. By treating this as a purely military problem, they had missed the real significance of what had just occurred. The Sovereign was not just a weapon, it was a symbol, and symbols, Elena knew, could be more powerful than any dreadnought. Area, transmit a message to all human colonies. Tell them that the Sovereign is operational and ready to assist any human settlement that requests aid. It's time for humanity to remember what we're capable of. Message transmitted, Captain. I am also detecting increased activity in the outer systems. Several derelict ship graveyards are showing signs of power activation. Elena's eyes widened. Other ships are waking up? It appears that my reactivation has triggered automated systems in other hidden vessels. The Sovereign was not the only ship that remained hidden after the surrender. Elena felt a surge of hope. Humanity's secret fleet was awakening, and the galaxy would never be the same. The age of human weakness was ending, and the Coalition would soon learn that some sleeping giants should never be disturbed. As the Sovereign set course for the nearest human colony, its massive engines burning bright against the darkness, Elena knew that they had just fired the first shot in a new war. But this time, humanity would not be fighting for survival. This time, they would be fighting to reclaim their rightful place among the stars.